Hello, and welcome to the Narrowing Path, walking the spiritual walk. My name is Steve Van Einstein. Thank God for joining me again tonight as we do today's daily reading from James Allen's Daily Meditations. This will be fresh to you and fresh to me, meaning you'll get my genuine response, reactions, observations, and what I relate to about the reading, as this will be the first time that I hear it or read it right here on this podcast with y'all. So, as always, I'm greatly looking forward to it, just to see where we end up and to see what the end of December looks like it's shaping up to be. So, which is the end of this year, which I'm excited about. I'm excited to see how this goes and the next steps for this podcast. And as always, I'm grateful for the people that were jumping on and listening throughout this whole year. It's been a great ride, honestly. So, let's go ahead and we're gonna get started with today's daily reading from James Allen's Daily Meditations, which would be for December 21st. An awakened vision calls us to a nobler life. As a man cannot live in two countries at the same time, he must leave the one before he can settle in the other. So a man cannot inhabit two spiritual countries at the same time, but he must leave behind the land of sin before he can live at peace in the land of truth. When one leaves his native land, he leaves behind all beloved associations, sweet companionships, dear friends and relatives, yeah, all upon which his heart has been ever set must be parted with and left behind. So when one resolves to live in the new world of truth, the old world of error, with its loved pleasures, cherished sins, and vain associations, must be renounced. By such renunciation, the individual gains, humanity gains, and the universe becomes a brighter and more beautiful habitation. We must shake the mind. We must shake the mud of the valley from our feet if we are to commune with the mountain of silence. Woo! Ooh, ooh, ooh. That's a reading that'll give you chills. At least it did for me. Because I know the truth of that reading. I know how accurate it is. And I have a vague understanding of the depth and length it goes to as well. When it says leave everything, everything has to be left behind. Every perspective, every desire, every opinion. When I got sober, one of the first things I learned from somebody was everything I knew was truth was up for review. Stuck with me. Still sticks with me to this day. It gave me the opportunity to question some things. And everything from that and as a man thinketh from James Allen, which I read, was really another thing that allowed me to think differently, because it's a whole concept. It's a whole undertaking to just start to think differently. It seems so simple, and it is. And at the end game, like at the end of everything, it really is a simple concept to think differently. But getting there was a long, painful road of surrender and acceptance. So anyway, let's go ahead and we'll go through this one line by line. An awakened vision calls us to a nobler life. Because an awakened vision demands that we stop serving ourselves at the end of the day. An awakened vision demands us to live a life not based on selfishness and self-centeredness. So what is that? To live a life based on service and selflessness, which some might call a nobler life. Great term, great word for it. Noble, dignity, honorable. Great words. And because that awakening, that spiritual awakening, right? That's what they call it in the 12-step rooms. And similar concepts and understandings have come from other recovery related things or just people's categorization of life. When that spirit awakens, we understand it's not about our physical selves anymore. When the spirit awakens, we have that awakened vision, that foresight, that understanding that unfortunately can go back to sleep if we are not careful. As a man cannot live in two countries at the same time, but must leave the one before he can settle in the other. So pretty straightforward picture here, right? Like you're either living in the United States or you're living in the UK or you're living in the United States or you're living in Canada or you're living in Canada or you're living in uh, Greenland. Like these, you physically can be in only one place at a time to live and to settle. In that immediate moment, in the now, you can only be in one location. So a man cannot inhabit two spiritual countries at the same time. This is the same thing. You cannot live in the land of the material and the land of the spiritual because that type of living never work. It just doesn't work. They're incongruent because in the land of this material, selfish, self-serving, desire-based, pleasure-based society and world, in the midst of that, you can't have this other focused life. So you can have a selfish or a selfless life. You can serve yourself or you can serve others. You can't do both. You can't. We try to make it work and feel like we can do both, but you can't do both. Selfishness is selfishness through and through. There is no other. So that has to be abandoned, like he says here, but must leave behind the land of sin before we can live at peace in the land of truth. So we have to let these things go. We have to let go of all these old character defects that used to serve us. We have to let go of all these old opinions that used to serve us, that we used to be so vainly attached to. And we have to let all these things go. Before we can truly and thoroughly live in truth, we must let these things go. When one leaves behind his native land, he leaves behind all beloved associations, sweet companionships, dear friends and relatives, yet all upon which his heart has been ever set must be parted with and left behind. What a painful statement that is, isn't it? Because we'd like to sit and think that I get to hold on to the things that I know are good, but this journey has taught me that I didn't have any idea of what good meant, of positive, of healthy meant. So all these things that I was trying to hold on to pulled me even farther away from a spiritual life, from a way of spiritual living, because I wanted to bring all this stuff with me from the old world, from the old perspectives, from the old understandings, right? I wanted to carry all my resentments. I wanted to carry all my hurts. I wanted to carry all my character defects and self-serving behavior. I wanted to carry all that into this new world and just hope this world was a little bit more kind to a guy like me. Just be nice to me. I deserve it. I've been through a lot. If you had my life, you'd live the way I do too, type shit. Beloved all. When one leaves behind his native land, he leaves behind all beloved associations. So the organizations, the groups, the labels we associate with, sweet companionships, our friendships, our friend groups, are a lot of our just personal relationships. Dear friends and relatives, sweet companionships, so lovers too. Yea, all upon which his heart has been ever set must be parted with and left behind. Because none of it was, took me a while to understand this, but my entire life previous, even the things that may be construed as good or positive, were made in an alcoholic mindset. So there was always some, excuse me, selfish or self-serving goal at the end. There's always something that I would get out of it. I was never truly selfless. So I had to let all these things go though, and I didn't even realize what I was holding on to. I think that was a big thing. Like just eventually through practice of living this way of life and everything, I just realized how deeply my old world was still attached to me and hanging off of me. I just didn't understand what it actually meant to let these things go and how to get myself out of the way, how to not have my ego wrapped up in these material things. Sometimes I still have a problem with that. But we have to let all of these relationships go, all of these things go, all of these ideas go, all of this understanding go. Because it was all incorrect. It was all made under a selfish, self centered perspective and mindset. And that'll bring us back to that if we are not careful. So it must go. Doesn't mean that the things are out of our life. We just have to rebuild them in a different light perspective. So when one resolves to live in the new world of truth, the old world of error, with its loved pleasures, drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, food, sleeping, like all of these pleasures, cherished sins, all our character defects, the anger, the guilt, or the anger, the envy, the jealousy, the self pity, the depression, the fear, the anxiety, and then our vain associations, the things outside of ourselves that we use to give ourselves value, the friends we have, the titles we hold, the prestige we have. So when one resolves to live in the new world of truth, the old world of error with its loved pleasures, cherished sins, and vain associations must be renounced. Renounced. Let that stuff go. Reject those things. Repent for those things. Ask for help with those things, forgiveness with those things. By such renunciation, the individual gains, humanity gains, and the universe becomes a brighter and more beautiful habitation. So, when someone begins on this path of spirituality and gets to this point of just letting these things go and being willing to turn them over to God, which doesn't mean they'll always be taken away right away. We like to hold on to them, but we gain as an individual. Humanity gains as a whole, and this world and universe gains from us walking this path. Us walking this path is really the best thing we could do for the world, humanity, and ourselves. Hands down. It's the only way we can make a brighter and more beautiful habitation. This is the only solution. Is a way of spiritual living. Many paths, though. General guidelines, though. Goal. Now it closes with this. We must shake the mud of the valley from our feet if we are to commute Commune with the mountain. Silence. You got to let these things go. We've got to be willing to embrace a new way of living, but also a new way of thinking and a new understanding. So to take all this stuff and let them go, to be willing to reform your opinions, be willing to learn and be teachable, and also be honest, because I can tell you right now, the way I was thinking never turned out like this. It was always some blowout and negative thing. So we have to shake off the mud of the valley. If we are to commune with the mountain, silence. Not a question of negotiation. It's just what must happen because that's the only way it can happen. So, all right. Well, thank you all for joining me again. It was a fantastic reading today. Absolutely loved it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the last couple of days of December and the last couple of days of this year coming up. So I hope you all will join me for that. And I will be back again tomorrow. So until next time, thanks.